Back on golf today. The year was 2015 and a 23-year-old PGA Tour rookie, Smylie Kaufman, was on absolute fire in the final round of the Shriners Children's Open. Shot 61, making 7 birdies and an eagle in his final 11 holes. Kaufman had to wait around, though, for 2 hours before he was eventually crowned the champion.
And Smylie joined NBC Sports in January of this year and serves as an on-course reporter for its golf coverage. It's very, very good. Happy to have him as a part of our team. In time for a past champ chat, we welcome in Smylie Kaufman ahead of his tee time. 8 years ago, the final round, you're 7 shots back going into that round. What did you wake up and think you have a chance to win this thing?
No, absolutely not, Damon. It was a day just like any other day on Sunday. I wasn't thinking about winning. Typically for a pro, right around if you're 5 back, that's when you start going through the scenarios of, okay, if I shoot this and the leaders behind me shoot X, then I'll have a chance. But I didn't even get off to that good of a start that day. I was 1 under through 7 holes. And then, I got to go back and look at it. But I think I birdied like 10 of the next 11 holes or something crazy like that. Just went on this crazy run. And I remember my caddy telling me on the 9th hole, asking, who do you think is going to win this tournament? He said, I think you can win this. And it just kind of woke something up in me. I was like, you know what, maybe I can. And went on this crazy run. And got a little lucky that the guys behind me didn't finish it off. But I was happy to avoid a playoff, really, because I couldn't feel my hands or legs the last like 30 minutes. But it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that final round 61, you ended up clipping 6 guys into second place by a single shot, Smylie. When you were a rookie so early in your PGA Tour career, was it a little easier for you to not feel as though you were in the mix of this shootout at the very end of a tournament where you could go crazy early, post a number, and then sit back and see what happened?
You know what really helped me was coming off the Korn Ferry Tour and going straight into the fall season. I was already in rhythm, in a playing mode. I knew how to get in contention in golf tournaments, how to win tournaments. And that's one thing these Korn Ferry Tour players that just graduated now don't get the benefit of, is to play this fall season. I was super confident. I was in good form, and I was able to capitalize. And that's one thing that these Korn Ferry Tour graduates, now they just finished up last week, now they start in the regular calendar season. It's a little tougher to kind of know exactly where your form is. And, that was a huge benefit to me. And I think there was plenty of other guys that were rookies that year that were able to take advantage. Specifically that year, the week before, Emiliano Grillo won in Napa. And then Patton Kizzire, he was the guy that was competing with me that week as well, who was a rookie. But, that's one thing I'd like to see the fall return back to, is to have those Korn Ferry guys playing, to have those opportunities to get into that winner status and playing for some more money.
How do you think this fall series works for PGA Tour members right now, Smylie? Do you think it's lost some of the identity that it used to have, or does it actually have more identity because guys are really playing for a living at this time of the year?
It has more of an identity, but I think the tournaments kind of suffer from it because you don't get the big names that would show up, a couple big names that would come in the fall. But I definitely think there's the Korn Ferry Tour guys not being in Napa this year. It didn't feel normal not having that new crop of players being in Napa this year. I do think that the fall event should have those players playing, even though they're not accumulating points. So often that you see Korn Ferry Tour players, they have their caddies, their agents, and once they get after RSM, they realize, wait, this isn't the caddy I need. This isn't the equipment I need to be playing. And it's like, all right, I have some time to figure it out before the next calendar season rolls around where you're going to the Sony. It kind of helps you figure out how to play on the PGA Tour and what it's like, how it's different from the Korn Ferry Tour. And I just don't understand why that's still not the case, that they're not allowed to play. So hopefully that does get changed.
Well, Smylie, this week we have an LPGA player in the field in Vegas. Lexi Thompson sponsors exemption. Peter Malnati said, listen, we don't have to resort to, he said the word gimmick, and then he took the word back and said it's not against Lexi, but the fall, needs an identity and needs to have great players. What are your thoughts on Lexi playing, an 11-time winner on the LPGA, competing this week at TPC Summerlin?
Well, first off, the Thompson family's very close to mine. I played college golf with her brother, Curtis, played on tour with Nicholas. And then I've played a bunch of golf with Lexi as well. She's incredible. I mean, what she's able to do with the golf ball is I think she can, make a cut in the PGA Tour event. Whether it's, that's the only confusing thing about this week. Is kind of goes back to, what is this fall season? And to me, this fall season's all about, this group of 126 to 200 that are playing for their jobs. And so I definitely see why people could see, why give a spot to Lexi when you could have given it to a player who's trying to earn their job. And I'm sure there was a player or two this week that didn't get a sponsor's invite that are doing the Monday qualifier wondering why they weren't given a spot and an opportunity to keep their job. So from both sides, what I understand, just the timing doesn't make as much sense. I definitely think Lexi playing on the PGA Tour in an event is great for the women's game. It's great, obviously, for her brand. And I'm excited to see how she'll play. I think it's a golf course that she can play well on. But to your point, Damon, it is kind of it's a little odd in the fact that it doesn't necessarily fit what this FedEx Cup Fall is all about, which is guys playing for their jobs.
You're just back from Rome, Smylie, where you were at the Ryder Cup working for NBC. What did you make of the American team's performance there and their struggles overseas? Is it just as simple as the best players not playing their best that week?
I think it's all that. And one of the things that I looked at, just as far as the stats go, the European team, they were just so much better off the tee. They were able to put the ball in the fairway more often than the American side was. And really, for whatever reason in the Ryder Cup, the European team seems to always putt better. And I felt like they made more crucial putts. They hold out chips more. And I think there's going to be a lot of questions about Zach Johnson and his picks, his lineups. But I think more credit needs to go to the identity that Luke Donald created for that European team. It seemed like they were playing for more than themselves. They really bought in to just really the team atmosphere of what Luke Donald created that week. And you could see it with the guys, and you could see them playing towards the fans. And I've been to plenty SEC football games in my day, and I tell you what, it was my first Ryder Cup, and it felt so much like going to a football game, and the atmosphere and just really one of the coolest events I've ever been to. And I couldn't be more excited for Bethpage, because I think that New York crowd might take it to another level.
And Smylie, it must have been weird. You're covering players who, in some cases, are your dear friends, Spieth, Thomas, Ricky. Some might say that the team is too much of a buddy system, as opposed to the captain just saying, you're playing with who, that the players have too much power. What do you think of that sentiment?
Well, I've had no problem kind of separating the two with my friends and being able to analyze golf, call golf how I see it. And going into the week, you could have made a case. Really, I think Brooks Koepka was a guy that I kind of had on the team. But the other 5 picks, you could have made cases against them, and you could have made a case for, I think, 7 to 8 more players to be on that American Ryder Cup team. It just wasn't as cut and dry as it was 2 years ago at Whistling Straits. And even looking back to the President's Cup, just how easy it was to pick that team. You had Will Zalatoris and Cameron Young, 2 players that going into this year you felt like were going to be on that team, that one gets hurt, one is out of form. And then you had a year where JT had his worst statistical year, but he's your best Ryder Cup player going into it. How do you leave him at home and lose? So there was a lot of factors that went into it, and I'm sure that it was highly debated who was going to be picked. I could have seen, obviously, Keegan Bradley being a pick. He played so well this year. I think he would have fit really well on that golf course. So that's one guy looking back. I could have seen Keegan being on that team, but it's easy playing Monday morning quarterback. It's a difficult job that Zach Johnson had because he had so many options. And I think Luke Donald was fortunate that his team over the course of the year, his depth, it kept on getting better and better. He had young guys and a youth movement show up that he didn't have 2 years ago at Whistling Straits. I talked to Padraig Harrington, and he had said that European team was left out in the dust. Don't even bother showing up in Rome. And that team, just the 3 best players in the world, obviously, are outside of Scotty Scheffler. They showed up and they played well, and they were going to be tough to beat if those three guys play well. Rahm, Hovland, and Rory, and the American side they just weren't quite in form.
Smylie, I know you got a tee time. I'll leave you with this. Your own game. Listen, Chris Eubanks in the tennis world played tennis, put on a broadcast headset, and saw tennis from a different perspective. Is there any chance you'll come back and play some PGA Tour golf? I love having you in Tommy Roy's trailer, but listen, man, I'll write some sponsors exemption letters for you. You play out of a past champion category.
Well, I haven't gotten to play a ton of golf this year. I've been working so hard on, with NBC and Golf Channel 20 weeks this year and starting a podcast. That's been taking a lot of my time up. We had our first baby in January. So all three of those things have taken up a lot of my time, where I've probably only played 20 times this year. I'm about to go tee off now. I hadn't played in about a month. So if I go low today, Damon, we're not going to rule it out. But if I'm 3 over through 4, we're never playing again. So we'll see.
Once a golfer, always a golfer. Smylie, play well, have fun, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. See you guys.